Hello, folks. Welcome to the Sovereignty Sage. I'm your Sage Coach, Melania Johnson, and today we are talking about one of the saboteurs that hijacks us, the stickler. The stickler is good until it isn't. Uh, there are saboteurs that um, hijack us. They hijack our happiness. They hijack our best intents for ourselves and others. And today's conversation is about one of those hijackers and how we can use grace to lessen the impact that this saboteur has on my life and your life as well. You know, my heart really goes out to folks who have this saboteur. This conversation is framed under the PQ Intelligence mental fitness program. There are a number of saboteurs, and we have a number of saboteurs that hijack us, all the time. Uh, there are some saboteurs that are stronger than others, right? But this is a saboteur, and it steals your joy, and it steals everybody else's joy that is around you because you're always looking for perfection. You're always looking for circumstances to be perfect. You're always looking for things to be right. You're always looking at what's wrong. You're never happy. You're never pleased. You're never content. And so today I'm going to provide you with a few solutions to help you combat this saboteur and to bring a little bit more joy in your relationship with yourself as well as your relationships with others. So let's begin, shall we? Welcome to the Sovereignty Sage, where your sage, Melania Johnson, enjoys herself as she runs her mouth about all things woman. My mom always said, women are the most powerful beings on the planet. They just don't know it. Well, I'm here to help you to know it. Put on your big girl panties because we're going deep. I'll talk about it all. Now let's go claim your sovereignty, shall we? So there are some characteristics that signal that the stickler saboteur might be one of your saboteurs that's hijacking you. And some of the characteristics of this particular saboteur is that you may feel irritable, you may feel tense, you may be opinionated. People may tell you that you're opinionated. And because you aren't necessarily happy, I mean, because really for you, everything is kind of failing, right? Nothing is up to your standard of excellence. People aren't as conscientious as you are in terms of their work and the efforts that they put in. And so it leaves you in a place that's not very happy. And sometimes sarcasm might be one of the traits that is demonstrated by this particular saboteur. You also may be highly critical of yourself and others. So there is an assessment that you can take that will help you identify your saboteurs, what your top saboteurs are, and what other saboteurs are wreaking havoc in your life. This particular saboteur for me clocked in at on a scale of 1 to 10. It was tied with a lot of other saboteurs at 5. So this is a saboteur that I have to deal with personally myself. And excuse me, and I can be very critical of myself, and I can be critical of others. I'm very conscientious. I hold myself and others to a high standard. And again, the result of that is that um, you're sometimes disappointed and unhappy, and you're really critically trained on all your flaws and mistakes and the things that you've done wrong or aren't doing right, right? Another characteristic of this is a strong need for self control and self restraint. You pride yourself on being able to be disciplined, and you kind of look down on folks who don't have those same skills and compass, right, to be disciplined and self controlled. Um, Another one is highly sensitive to criticism. So, which is really very interesting, right? Because this particular saboteur can be very critical of themselves and can be very critical of others, but can be also very sensitive when criticism is directed towards them. And there's a reason for that, and that's probably at the root of why people who suffer from this saboteur do so. But before I get into all of that, let me just preface this by saying, because if you're a stickler, one of the things that you're probably saying to yourself is, what, are you asking me to lower my standards? No, I'm not asking you to lower your standards. It's not about that. What it is about, though, is setting standards that are realistic from the beginning, right? The problem with the stickler, like I said, it's good until it isn't. There is nothing wrong with having standards. There's nothing wrong with working to achieve excellence. It's not. There's nothing wrong with expecting people to perform at a level of excellence. But again, saboteurs are here in our lives because of things that have happened to us, and their role is to protect us, right? The problem is not that you have standards, but that now your standards are out of balance. They're not realistic, right? And one of the things that you can attitudes that you can adopt is that when it comes to excellence in your standards, you and others around you can grow, right? Part of life and part of living is that we're human, and humans are not perfect, which means that there are going to be mistakes. But you can learn from the mistakes and you can grow. And as you grow and as you learn, so do your standards also increase, because you, like Maya Angelou quote, when you know better, you do better, right? And so your standards improve and they grow. But there is a certain amount of grace that you can have, because the truth of the matter is, if you are expecting perfection in an imperfect world from imperfect people, you're really setting yourself up for constant disappointment. Whether, and that disappointment is, like I said, is directed towards yourself, but it's also directed towards those you are in relationship with, whether it be a mate, a partner, your children, siblings, if you lead a team, right? They're all subjected to this hijacker, this saboteur. So one of the things that I would encourage you to really contemplate as you go forward is the concept of grace. Grace can be defined as showing kindness and forgiveness, even when someone doesn't deserve it, right? And so if you're really hard on yourself and you don't give yourself a break or cut yourself some slack, you can find some grace and some kindness towards yourself and some and others, even if you don't think you merit that kindness and grace. So you can have excellence, but you can never have perfection. And I think that's worth repeating. You can have excellence, but you can never have perfection, because perfection on this realm, in this life, doesn't exist, right? Perfection is designed as the condition, state, or quality of being free, or as free as possible from all flaws and defects. Well, flaws are built into this equation, right? Because we are not perfect beings. And so uh, perfection is also really subjective, right? What I might find perfect, you might look sideways at and go, no, that's not up to my standard, right? So this conversation is centered around this mental fitness practice of positive intelligence, and the Stickler Saboteur is its theme is perfectionism and the need for control and organization, which is taken too far, and that's where the good is no longer good. So, some of the thoughts that help to support this type of mindset, this type of mental map, right? This type of neural path that we have created for ourselves is that, there is right and there is wrong. And I'm always going to be right and you should be right too. And I'm going to judge you if you're not right. Right? If you can't do it perfectly, don't bother, right? This is not asking you to have lax standards. This is asking you to be realistic. And also, let me also frame this in that we live in a society that is increasingly telling us that we have to do X, Y, and Z in order to be perfect. We need to show up in the world to be perfect, without flaws, without vulnerability. In my business, I focus on leadership development. Well, some of the most effective leaders, some of the most powerful people are people who let you know and show you their vulnerability. Because if they can be in a place of vulnerability and survive it, it inspires others when they're in a place of vulnerability to be able to garner the strength to go forward or to make the changes that they need or to grapple with whatever it is that is challenging them at the moment. Perfection doesn't inspire us. What inspires us are people's human evolutions, their growth. They start out at point A, but with intention and with focus and with work, right? They end up at point B or they end up at their destination, even though there are challenges on the road to their destination. Those are the things that actually inspire us, not someone who is a hard taskmaster, who is critical, who is constantly snapping the whip, who is sarcastic and self righteous. These are some of the traits that this saboteur can have. And you justify this by saying that, perfectionism is good, isn't it? It's good. It makes things better, right? But it really doesn't. And the impact that this has is because we're in relationships with ourselves, we're in relation with other humans, right? And the impact on them is that you're rigid. If things can't be done in the image or the way that you think is perfect or is right or is correct, then it's not good enough. And so people in your realm are always wrong. And they adopt a mindset that no matter what it is that I do, no matter what it is that I present, no matter what it is that I proactively try to do to please you, the outcome is always going to be that you're not satisfied. And that produces feelings of um, anxiety in other people. It makes them feel less than. And so I'm going to ask you, and I give you these characteristics and these descriptions not to make you feel bad, but to really shine light on the impact of this saboteur in our lives and its impact on other people. It causes resentment and anxiety and self-doubt and a resignation to not put any effort in, because no matter if I went 120, 30, 40, 50%, it would all end the same. You looking dissatisfied. And this doesn't mean that you're a terrible human being or you're a bad person. What it means is that you have a mindset that's not serving you. It's not serving others. And at the end of the day, it doesn't make you happy. A life without happiness is questionable. Is that a successful life? Now, that's not to say that we don't go through some difficult times, because we do. Life is not always rainbows and sunshines, but wouldn't you like a bigger percentage of your life, your interactions in your home, and your relationships with your friends and partners and spouses and children and your colleagues or the teams that you lead? Wouldn't you like for those interactions to be inspiring, to be uplifting, to really help people to because it's not our criticisms and our critique that make people great. It's how we nurture and grow our relationships, and nurture and grow ourselves, and nurture and grow the seeds of potential that are within each and every one of us, right? It's being able to water that and to provide the catalyst produces those types of outcomes. And there's a reason why you are the way that you are. You know, a lot of who we are is developed from childhood. It's developed from the people that we have interacted with. And so maybe you interacted with, or had people in your life that were very critical of you. And maybe one of the defense mechanisms, because that's what our saboteurs are, they're there as a defense, right, to protect us. And maybe one of your defense mechanism was, well, let me be perfect. Let me work to really be the most perfect person, and maybe they will love me or like me or pay attention to me. Maybe I can garner their support and their love by being as perfect as I can possibly be. Or maybe this saboteur was developed to bring order and situations that were chaotic for you. Let me try to control this. This is what's right. This is where this goes. This is how we handle these situations. Let me, garner order in this very chaotic time. These are, again, coping mechanisms for us. So, how to deal with this is really employing more grace, more kindness, more forgiveness into our lives, being able to freely, give kindness to ourselves, and applying kindness to yours and other people, because you're not perfect either. Sticklers forget about kindness, and that's not to say that they're not kind people. It is that the goal of being perfect and flawless outweighs sometimes our ability to have empathy for other people's journey, for other people's efforts, for other people's um, attempts to please you. And so that's where grace comes in. Grace recognizes the human condition, the humanity that lives in each and every one of us. And that's what I want to help you to employ more of as you deal with this. We live in a world where we believe that you should push yourself and others to achieve perfect outcomes. And we achieve those outcomes at any cost. And we drive ourselves like a beast of burden, right? And when we or someone else falls short, we respond with ruthless disappointment and disapproval. And so this is the saboteur that hijacks us. And so I want to give you some potential tools to help you to better understand um, this saboteur, how it works, and what you can do to combat it. One of the things that you have to do, when we talk about mental fitness, one of the things that you have to do is be intentional and aware. It means that you have to focus in more on yourself. So you have to start to recognize when the stickler is at hand and to be able to pour compassion in. I'm very, very open about the things that I do to help myself to be the best version of myself. And one is counseling. And one of the things that my therapist, my counselor talks about all the time is compassion. Melania, how are you using compassion in this situation? Compassion for yourself. And oftentimes I'm looking at her dumbfounded because I'm like, compassion. Mm, that wasn't a concept that I even thought about in this moment. Because when you can tune into what the stickler is telling you, this isn't good enough. You'll never succeed unless you're perfect or you're number one, right? They're kind of a loser because they don't know how to deliver, right? Ruthless. And so you have to recognize the voice that is driving you, because the stickler is not coming from a place of peace. The stickler is coming from a place of anxiety. So you have to recognize when the mind is giving you thoughts that are anxiety provoking. And you also pay attention to your body, because your body tells you when you are not feeling comfortable, right? When you are in a place of discomfort or unhappiness. Then, you start to apply grace, when these things arise. You know what? I see you, stickler. I see what you're trying to do, right? But I don't need you right now. Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a little bit more compassion in this moment for myself and for others. I'm going to choose to be kind to myself in this moment. Doesn't mean that you don't, again, try to achieve something great or to boost the level of excellence, but I'm not going to beat myself up and others in the process of trying to accomplish these things. And so instead of beating yourself up, you shift your thoughts, your mindset to a growth mindset. Like I said, you can achieve greater things, and as you grow into them, as you expand your capacity, as you learn, as you make mistakes, and from those mistakes you grow, right? You can turn this need for perfectionism into a growth mindset, reminding yourself that progress, not perfection, creates growth. And so this type of new or reset of your mental map, so to speak, helps soften the impact of the stickler. You can redefine what perfect is. Instead of necessarily trying to be perfect, let me be my most authentic self. What? Yes, my authentic self strives for excellence. So let me strive for excellence in the things that I do, and the products that I create, and the services that I deliver, and my approach to raising my children or interacting with my spouse or my colleagues. Let me be not perfect, but authentic. Applying grace to the fact that you're going to make mistakes. How can I show up fully as myself, flaws and all, right? Accept that imperfection is not a failure, but a sign of humanness. Grace allows you to be consistently humane to yourself and others. Practice self forgiveness, right? I beat myself up all the time. So I'm not talking to you from some a vantage point of perfection. I'm talking to you as a flawed human being that is working through these things on a daily basis, applying grace when I make a mistake or when I don't show up in the best light that I had wanted to, or when I drop the ball, or if I don't meet a goal, right? It's okay. I'm learning. I extend grace to myself. You know what? I've learned from this lesson, and now I'm going to do better. Release control with trust. The stickler thrives on control, fear, to try to control chaos or try to control failure. Apply grace. Releasing the outcome with trust in yourself. I trust that what I'm doing is right in this moment. I'm trusting that what I'm doing, that I'm bringing everything to bear at this moment is good enough. And when I learn something new, I will present and do something that's even better. Letting go of the need to come right out the gate perfect. And you have to celebrate. The one thing that is brutal about this particular saboteur is that it doesn't allow for celebrations. Every time you grow, every time you make something a little bit better, every time you can find compassion in the moment, not to beat yourself up or to look at someone else harshly, or to share your displeasure. And that's not to say if you're leading a team, or if in a household that you have to not talk about or quiet your disappointment that something didn't happen or wasn't done well or thoughtfully. It's not to say that, but when you see yourself growing, when you see others growing and trying to celebrate that, fostering an attitude of gratitude. It is really difficult to be miserable when you have gratitude. And simply offering grace to others, applying empathy as opposed to judgment, shifting to compassion. I know they're trying their best. Oh, the hubby or the wife made dinner today. They're not necessarily a good cook. I can cook better. That's not how you cook a steak or vegetables or whatever. But hello, I can have empathy and gratitude and compassion that they try. And we can celebrate that. Engage in grace filled grounding practices, whether that might be a mindfulness practice, meditation practice, pausing to breathe. One of the things that I advocate through the positive intelligence mental fitness program is doing a PQ rep. PQ rep could be, a few seconds of deep breathing. It could be rubbing your hands or fingers together or touching something that, and focusing on that. It could be a visual, looking at something with intention and focus. It could be auditory, listening to the sounds that are around you, but something that pulls you out of that moment so that you can go, oh, there's the stickler. I see you, but I don't need you in this moment. I know what's right. I'm going to work towards making that happen. And I'm going to have grace on the way. But being able to have a practice that will help ground you is one of the important steps in combating this particular saboteur. And so, with that in mind, it is time for a shameless plug. This podcast is sponsored today by Be Smart Coaching. Be Smart Coaching's motto is, in life, you can either work hard or you can work smart. I suggest you work smart. That quote came from Margie B. Smart, who is my mother, was my mother. And yes, Be Smart Coaching is my company. I help leaders get work a little smarter by getting real with the issues and the barriers that keep them from moving forward. Be Smart Coaching offers leadership development services, providing personality and behavioral assessments that help you to understand you on a greater level and be able to leverage your strengths and also mitigate your areas or opportunities where you can grow. I offer coaching services for individuals and teams, training and facilitation, change management strategy, and a women's leadership mastermind program. So if you are considering leadership development for yourself or your team, please start with me. Let's have a conversation so that we can discuss your leadership development needs. And if you are really struggling with some of the saboteurs that we have talked about in this podcast, this being the stickler, I really encourage you to let's have a conversation about the mental fitness PQ, mental PQ intelligence program, the mental fitness program that I use on a daily basis that has changed really my life and how I come to my days. And it's built on not just, fluffy woo woo kind of, feel good, positive thinking type of philosophy, but it is built on science, neuropsychology, cognitive, behavioral psychology, positive psychology, and performance science. And a part of this program is a 6-week. It is an intense program, folks, right? And there is an amazing app that you get to use on a daily basis that helps you track your progress. It provides you with daily exercises because if you're really serious about really lessening the impact of these saboteurs, living a happier life, a more strength-filled life, and a life that is more resilient, you've got to practice this every day because what you're doing is changing your neural paths. We have grown to the stickler probably began in you when you were a child. Now you're an adult. That's a lot of years of going down a mental pathway that does not lead you to a content, peaceful, productive place. It doesn't build relationships. So it takes daily practice to learn how to build new a pathway, new mental thoughts, and new mental paradigms, right? There is a weekly group coaching session with other women who are very focused on improving themselves. That uh, coaching session is facilitated by me, and you will also receive a digital copy or access to a digital copy of the best-selling book Positive Intelligence by Shirzad Shameen, who is the founder of this amazing mental fitness program. So if you are interested in this and would like to be a part of the January cohort, please reach out to me so that we can have a conversation. So let's talk today a little bit. I'm going to move into our collective sovereignty mindset. The first part is about our own human evolution, our own personal sovereignty, right? Today's quote is, I do not at all understand the mystery of grace, only that it meets us where we are, but does not leave us where it found us. That quote came from Anne Lamott, who is an American writer. When you are able to inject greater levels of grace in your life, it moves you forward, it elevates you. It does not leave you in the same place that it found you. I want to turn our attention to.
Thanks for joining me this week.
I want to. I want to turn. I'm sorry, I'm having some technical difficulty here. I want to turn our attention to. Huh, well, that didn't work. Something didn't load the way that it needed to. Well, I'm sorry about that. Well, I wanted to turn our attention to the collective sovereignty, right? That we need to focus on, right? Uh, we can we can do things to help ourselves evolve, but when you stop to think about the statehood of women around the world, right? We need to focus on how we can help other women in other communities build stronger communities and stronger lives for themselves, right? And so I wanted to talk to you about what I call the game plan, so to speak, the game plan of collective sovereignty. You know, women have made differences throughout history by being able to form groups that have mass demonstrations, petition to use the courts, right? To support local, state, and national, as well as international organizations that serve women and help to build communities that are strong all throughout this world. And I ask you to support some of those communities, right? And to put your efforts and to put efforts into um, building a community that supports women wherever they are all over this planet. So, and I am so upset that huh, forgive me, that I unfortunately am having some technical difficulties. But with that said, one of the other areas that I wanted to, um, bring to uh, your attention in terms of some of the work that needs to be done is economic power, right? We have an economic power. Women hold the purse strings in many societies. And where we put our dollars is really very important. And where we don't put our dollars is very important. And our economic buying power allows us to have more influence in our world than we typically give ourselves credit for. Again, as we move into the Christmas season, I am not I am by in my heart a minimalist, right? But people do purchase items for others and themselves during this time of year. Please think about how you can support small businesses, how you can support women-owned businesses, how you can support businesses or organizations that do fair trade and sell the goods of other folks in other countries, right? And help to build communities in other countries. And one such community, and I'm going to have to go to this screen, that is the Fair World Project. It helps to bring goods from marginalized communities throughout the world, and helps to support small family farms and folks who create goods and bring them to the marketplace to help support, again, communities that could use our economic power. So with that being said, I have talked enough today. Thank you if you have joined me today. If you haven't told yourself lately, you are powerful. Now, I encourage you uh, um, to claim your sovereignty, right? And go and rule your world. You are powerful. You make an influence not only in your life, but in the lives of others. I will be here next week. See you then. And until then, have compassion.
Thanks for joining me this week. Come back next week at 12 noon. I'm live on YouTube. Love to see you. Maybe we can have a chat. Take care. See you next week.